الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and welcome to Islamic Oasis Live. Brothers and sisters, as we all know, it is 1 year anniversary of the genocide taking place in Gaza. The numbers, depending on who you speak to, but at least according to one NGO, Lancet, very well-known NGO, the numbers are over 240,000 killed. And for us, of course, shuhada, but you're looking at almost 250,000 people killed in Gaza. A war is raging on. It has reached Lebanon. We don't know the exact numbers there, but it seems the borders of Israel will be changing. Hassan Nasrallah is no more. Ismail Haniya is no more. And we don't know what the future of Hezbollah may be, or even the future of Lebanon in general. There's a lot going on with what may occur with the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, and also then some of the new moves that are being made by Egypt. Distraction or a strategy, that's something that we will put it on the table to discuss. A very interesting time. So to discuss all of this, we have our dear brother, Professor, Dr. Abu Talha is on directly from Istanbul this time, inshallah. So without wasting much time, we want to get right into this. Dr. Abu Talha, welcome back to Islamic Oasis Live, Sheikh. How are you doing?
Jazakallah khair. I'm doing very well. Thank you, brother, always for having these lively and hot discussions and very strategic and important. Thank you.
Inshallah. Sheikh, let's begin with a question here. So now, new ballistic missiles, or I think even more advanced missiles, have been given to Israel. Today, this morning, the Americans said that Israel has to make a decision in the next month what to do with Gaza. If not, there may be some type of embargo. I don't know if that's political language to saying we're giving you more time. What's the deal, Sheikh? Now, Hassan Nasrallah is no longer there. Hezbollah is no longer there. And is, first of all, let's begin with this. Is America actually serious about embargo if Netanyahu doesn't give them a plan or an end game in a month?
No, definitely not. United States, what it's serious about enabling the occupying state in Palestine to at least reorder its state, its borders in a manner that enables a new Middle East to be formed. That's all the United States cares about. So if this will take a month or 2 months or 3 months, that's irrelevant. We have seen that right after October 7th, where they have given many ultimatums, 1 month, then to the end of the year, then to the 2 months in the new year, and so on, and kept dragging until now. So the issue is not the timing, the issue is the objective. Now, what is the real objective of the United States? United States objective is to reshape the geopolitics of the Middle East and to create a stable Middle East from the perspective of the United States. And that perspective means a Middle East that can generate and can supply all the resources that America needs, oil, gas, minerals, without any extra effort, without America having to install its bases in Qatar or in Bahrain or in Oman or in Saudi Arabia. These resources must come naturally, easily, without any hassle. That's the whole idea. And in order to do that, the United States wants to involve and engage Iran, Turkey, and Israel to be the sustainer of this new Middle East, period. Now, Israel or this occupying state says, well, we can do that. We can be part of this new Middle East. However, this tiny little state, the thin state as named by Trump, is not sufficient for us. We need a real state, a state that does not have, it's in, sorry about that. Israel can do whatever it needs to do. It can destroy whatever it can destroy. It can kill whomever it can kill. It's irrelevant. The United States does not care about that. All it cares about is, can we rebuild the Middle East? And from the perspective of the United States as a country, not as Biden or Trump, not as Republicans or Democrats, they need this Middle East to be established as soon as possible. Brookings Institute issued a communique a couple of years ago saying the new Middle East has to be maintained by 6 countries: United States and Russia, although I really doubt that they are serious about Russia, and Iran, Israel, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. I believe that the Saudi Arabia and Russia were injected in this, the so-called the Security Council of the Middle East, only to quiet them for a while. But America really wants this Middle East to be totally maintained and sustained by 3 major powers: Iran, Israel, nuclear powers; Turkey, another military and economic power; and the rest of the Middle East has to submit. That's what the United States wants to do. Now, for this, it takes war. It takes a bloody war, and I think America wants this bloody war because it wants Israel to pay a price for its permanent existence. To be permanent member of this council, it has to pay a price. The occupying state of Palestine had not paid a price since it was created in 1948. It was all given to it by de facto. 1948, it came into existence. The Arab armies, the so-called Arab armies under the leadership of a British general, they withdrew from Palestine and allowed the occupying state to take over.
So
In
hold on,
1967,
you're saying that, okay, so hold on, you're saying that United States is at this point, United States is willing to go with a wider war in the region, even if it's against Iran.
the issue of Iran, the issue of Iran here is to engage Iran in Middle East crisis, so Iran can deserve its seat in the council, because Iran historically has never been part of the Middle East. Even during the Khilafah state or before that, Iran had always tried to walk away, even from the boundaries of the Islamic State during the Safawids, in many eras. Whenever they were able to break, they will break. And when the Cold War started, Iran was considered part of the U.S. Camp, although not part of NATO. But U.S. was able to install rockets and defense military on the borders of the Soviet Union. So Iran was never part of the Middle East. Now America wants to be part of the Middle East, so it has to deserve a seat. So it has to be engaged. And that's why we keep hearing this. Okay, Israel can retaliate, but it has to be measured retaliation, so it does not escalate into a long-scale war. Iran can defend itself, can respond when Haniya was assassinated, but Iran response has to be carefully measured so that it does not drag into a full-scale war. But it has to be enough to bring or to give Iran a seat in the Middle East Security Council. That's the whole issue of engaging Iran. Iran was engaged through Hezbollah, through the Houthis in Yemen, through the Iraqi militias, Islamic militias in Iraq. It did happen, but the full-scale war is not permitted. America would not like to see a full-scale war because a full-scale war may disrupt the whole plan. Okay.
So Sheikh, let me.
Can you still hear?
No, yeah, I can hear you. It's not. It's just I'm trying to figure when you're saying new Security Council. is this new Security Council means what? This is not, you're not talking about the UN Security Council. You're talking about a new.
No, 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 no. This is Middle East Security Council.
Okay, so a
Middle East
complete
is a
different
very turbulent
institution.
area. It's a new institution, completely new institution that
So,
America is
Sheikh,
trying to establish.
the attacks on UN that took place in the last few days, last few weeks, there have been some attacks. There's been
Yes,
some serious talks about the attacks on the UN. Is this part of that new infrastructure that UN? Uh, I guess what I'm asking is, will UN play any role in this thing anymore, or the UN peacekeepers are being attacked even on the border? So it seems like they may just be removed. So is this
yes.
all of this is plan of
That's
the new?
part of it.
Mm,
Yes, that's all. All of this is a plan of the. It's a Middle East that is stable from within, not from without. When the United Nations peacekeeping forces are
mm,
inside the Middle East, that means there is yet another entity outside the Middle East that's responsible for the stability. And
mm,
now we have to prove that this stability cannot be achieved. The United Nations forces, the UNIFIL, are absolutely useless, and Israel is going to kick them out, and they will. So the idea is to have a self-sustained stability from within. But from that within, America does not trust Egypt, for example, or Sudan, or Iraq, or Syria, or Jordan, or Algeria, or Morocco. All of these things cannot be trusted, although they are part of the American call it game, or part of the puppets of America. But that's not sufficient for them to gain a seat that sits in the council that manages the affairs of the Middle East. Now, what does this mean in practice? Let me just jump, let's say, 5 years from now. Assume that this new Middle East Council exists, and this new Middle East can act, and then there is a turbulence, let's say, like we see in Sudan. Today
mm.
in Sudan, there is a turbulence. Who's going to interfere and stop that turbulence? Sometimes they said, let's get the African national forces, which they
Mm.
are useless.
African
United
Union.
Nations is not willing to move there. Who's going to stop the turbulence in Sudan? They had the new Middle East Council, then that new Middle East Council will interfere with the power of three major countries who are very well armed. Two of them are nuclear. One of them is heavily industrialized, which is Turkey. So those can take a decision. Assuming that there is a change of regime in Egypt, like the one we saw during the Arab Spring, and that does not that does not work United States. Instead of the United States trying to stop that and to interfere, which it turns out it might not be very appropriate, then it enables the Middle East Council to actually interfere and stop any riot or revolution. It is going to be a very serious change to the Middle East. It is very serious challenge to the aspirations of the people who are looking for a real change. That is the main goal of the new Middle East Council. Number one is to make sure that the supply of resources will never stop. Number two, any ideological or political change can be dramatically challenged by this council. So it's a very strategic move. That's why the United States is willing to push its puppet, its agent, Israel, to do whatever it can in order to set the ground new Middle East. And that takes, number one, to settle the issue of Palestine and the issue of Palestinian people and the Palestinian refugees. That's why you see the big attack on the UNRWA.
Mm,
UNRWA is being considered one time terrorist, one time useless, one time there is no need for it. Why? Because tomorrow, if this new Middle East plan, the geopolitical plan of the United States takes place, then we don't need the UNRWA, because Palestinians now have their own state. That state could be in Jordan or replacement of Jordan, as Hassan Nasrallah predicted, and not only Hassan Nasrallah. Everybody who has right mind can predict that this is what is going to happen, because for a long time the so-called Jordan has been termed or looked at as the replacement of Palestine, or the alternative statehood for Palestinians. So all of this, that's what America really wants. Can it do it? Would it be able to achieve that? It is spending all the effort possible, politically, economically, supplying the state of Israel with all the money they need, all the finances. Militarily, they just installed those THAAD rockets, or the air shield rockets. Ideologically, politically, they are supporting it by all the means. Not because America is in love with Israel. No, America is in love with its own plans and objectives, and Israel is nothing but another tool that the U.S. uses to achieve its goals. And this time, for the surprise of the Jewish state and the Jewish people, that they have been pushed into a war that they have to pay big price, like the one that happened a couple of days ago in the south of Haifa, where the
I think
rockets
almost
of
18
Allah
killed.
killed. Yeah, I mean, they have to, and actually Netanyahu mentioned that we have to pay very dear prices for this. That's what he has been told bluntly by the Americans. You want it, you have to pay for it. There is nothing come free. This is America, after all. It doesn't give anything free.
So hold on, Sheikh. So this situation. So when they tried to enter Haifa, obviously it seems like there was a very strong stand taken. They couldn't enter. This is the southern security region, it looks like. The war in Lebanon is for what, Sheikh? To settle Lebanon, to settle the borders for the new what Israel will look like in the next whatever 6 months, 1 year. What's the issue with Lebanon,
Yes.
Sheikh? One thing I can
Well,
understand that, okay, khalas, neutralize Hezbollah, there's no need for Hezbollah, so fine. Can there be actual expansion of the war to Lebanon? I mean, it already is, but meaning an actual war where there is a response.
Look, as far as Lebanon is concerned, for the Israelis, there are three main objectives. One objective is to demilitarize Hezbollah and transfer it into a political part of Lebanon, if they want to continue to exist. Number two is to expand the borders of Israel until the river Litani. So they will to consider this part of Palestine. Number three, which is much more serious, which I think it has not shown up on the screens yet, but very soon it may, which is the deportation of a very large group of Palestinians from the northern Palestine. And that's and today we have seen that the Israelis have prepared for that. They actually evicted more than 250,000 Israelis from the north into the so-called central Israel because of the war. Now, who is left in that area? Arabs, of course, Palestinian Arabs, because there are almost 250 or more, well, about 400,000 Palestinians live in that Jalil, in the upper Jalil of Palestine, in the northern part. Those are subject for eviction, just like their neighbors, the Jewish neighbors who have been evicted. But where would you evict these people? Obviously not to Tel Aviv, and not to Jaffa, and not to the other cities of so-called Israel. They would mostly be deported, and they will be told temporary until the war in the north settles down. We need to take you up somewhere to the some of the places in the West Bank or east of the West Bank even, and just wait there. We will get you back, and they will never come back, and they know that. So
So that
they
means
so for the Jewish state, there are, as I said, three objectives: deportation of
mm.
Palestinians, expansion of the borders to Litani, and to demilitarize Hezbollah. And those three objectives, until now, it doesn't seem that there is sufficient ground to abort or stop or challenge these objectives. The Israelis are going full scale for that, and they are using every single act that takes place on the ground as a justification for what they will do. So now we have here, after the bombardment, the rockets came down into the military base of the Golani division.
Right, right.
The rhythm of
Yeah,
Netanyahu and his military people has gone so high that we are going to hit and strike in the depth of Lebanon. Wherever we can reach, we are going to hit. And this will not be a classic type of retaliation, meaning that there is yet much more strong objective or something more goals that they will achieve, which in my opinion, these are the three things that Israelis want to do. Demilitarize Hezbollah, turn it into a political party, and after Iran has abandoned Hezbollah, I think that's not difficult to do. The second is to expand to the Litani River, which is almost 30 to 40 kilometers to the north of Israel. So they will remove that gap. See, if you look at the map of Israel, there is a thumb they call the Jalil thumb. So it's like a needle on the side of Israel. On its left side, there is Lebanon. That is a pretext to annex this part to Israel.
So there
And
seems to be
eventually,
already, as
well,
we speak, Sheikh, there seems to be some type of response. Well, what they're saying is reporting Iran about one person killed, four others injured in an explosion at a refinery in the city of Shushtar in the west of the country. At the moment, the circumstances are unclear. Another one says Israel is conducting sensitive coordination with countries in the region ahead of the Israeli response against Iran. Sheikh, so you're looking at it's going to be just a tick for tat type of response to Iran. Also, Israel is not going to go all out like what it's doing in Iran.
no, I'm saying is the interactions between Israel and Iran are very carefully calculated. Very
Seems,
carefully.
yes.
They could be devastating. They could hurt, but they are carefully calculated to the point that at the end of the day, Iran is granted a permanent seat on the Middle East Security Council, which means it becomes part of the Middle East. It's no longer a lonely state. Now, why is this important? It is. Number one, America does not like to deal with single lonely fighter countries. Iran has to be part of a region. That's called the regional stability. That's number one. Number two, America cannot allow Israel to be the only nuclear state in the area. That is very direct opposition to the American view of what is called regional stability. A regional stability means no power can over dominate the rest of the region. The whole region has to be self stabilizing. There is local self stabilization force. Iran versus Israel, Pakistan versus India,
Mm,
uh,
mm.
China versus Japan versus North. It has to be something local within
So,
the
Sheikh,
region.
is this also a problem, though? In general, the whole world is being armed with nuclear weapons. I mean, if there's a conversation, if you're asked that are we heading to a World War III, is this all a possibility, or are you looking at no, it's actually
No,
stabilizing the
no,
regions?
look, no. World wars break out when the conflict happens between two major world powers.
Mm,
Now,
mm,
United States here is the world power. In
right,
the Middle East, there is no world power.
right.
Israel is not a world level power. Iran is not. Turkey is not. Egypt is not. There is none. So this is not a pretext for world war. But a pretext for world war is when on the border of Ukraine, Russia gets in conflict, direct conflict with Britain, for example, or France. I'm
Mm,
excluding Germany because Germany is still under occupation.
mm,
Despite the big rhetoric of the Germans, they are still under occupation. But the world power can erupt if Russia and England, Russia and France, Russia and America, for example, or China and Russia, they get in conflict. That's a pretext for world war. Regional regional conflicts do not escalate into world wars. They escalate into regional war. That's why you keep hearing we don't want the war to drag and to become regional war. And they use the word regional. They never said the world war because they
mm,
understand what does world war means, what does it take to make a world war, and what's the regional war is. So the issue here is regional stability or regional instability. Until today, until today, the Middle East region has been unstable, and the only way you can sustain stability is by force from outside. America brings its forces into the Saudi Arabia back in 1991 and fights Iraq to get to stop Saddam Hussein from becoming a regional macho in the
mm,
area. So America has to interfere. In 2003, America had to interfere directly into Iraq on one side, on Afghanistan on another side, because they did not want Taliban to grow up and to become a regional power in the area, or a power that cannot be stopped. So they interfered. They interfered again in Iraq. They took out Saddam totally because Saddam was building his power so he can actually impact the situations around him by force. And that is very expensive, very costly for the big macho guy, for the America. It's very expensive. It's time consuming. It's effort consuming. It's a trouble. So now they say, well, enough is enough. Let's rebuild the Middle East in a manner where it can sustain its own stability. Number one, we have Israel, a military power, so nobody can challenge it. Well, bring Iran, so both can cancel one another, and they will. They have to agree, just like in the old time at the world level. America and the Soviet Union had to sit down and agree, and eventually everyone has to listen, and that's to go under their umbrella, whether they like it or not. So tomorrow, if America can build this new Middle East with the council built from major countries, Turkey, Israel, and Iran, then it will enable this council to solve the problems that arise in the Middle East locally. We don't have to send the troops anymore. We don't.
mm,
America doesn't have to pay a big price for the oil to continue to flow into American markets, or to be sold by the dollar, or for the gas or the minerals or the uranium or whatever which fuels the nuclear reactors in America and in Europe. So they need something internally to guarantee flow of material benefits, to guarantee that all of these markets are open for American and European goods, to guarantee that there is no new ideological state can rise up which can disrupt the regional order and beyond. And that's even the most important part. This Middle East this Middle East is pregnant with an ideological birth, a new ideological birth, to give birth to the Khilafah, to the Islamic State, which was aborted in Ankara. If you right now, that is one of the most important objectives of this new Middle East Council and the new Middle East geopolitics is to prevent the birth of a new ideological state, and the only ideological state that can be born in the area is Islam, the Islamic State, Islamic Khilafah. And that is a big worry. Not because they hate Islam per se, which they do, but because this new born that may arise any time, it's an Islamic State with a very deep ideology, deeply rooted in the history, deeply accepted by the people, as we have seen in Gaza, how they promoted and they asserted the beliefs of Islam. Number three, it carries an ideology of justice, that it will challenge all the oppression practiced by United States and Europe, which had been practiced over the last few centuries. That's a very serious issue, very serious. If I put my shoes, Allah forbids that, in the shoes of Biden or Trump, I would say my highest priority is to make sure that this Middle East will never give birth to an Islamic State, and I will do whatever it takes for that.
So
So
the next,
that's
go ahead. But I just
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
want to also ask you. I mean, recently, in the last few hours, it seems also that Erdogan has sent some drones to the supposedly what's known as the liberated areas. Sheikh, so let's say in this new Middle East, yani what's going to happen to Syria now? Syria is going to stay the way it is, kind of with the new design that is kind of already accepted with Idlib and with the Kurdish. What's the deal with? So how will
Well,
they resolve the issue of Syria? Is I guess what I'm asking.
so
Assad
the
in
issue
power,
of
no power,
Syria.
abandoned, finished. What's the new deal?
No, I think the last thing that really concerns America is who runs Syria, because they can find puppets almost under every rock. They turn any stone, they will find a puppet underneath.
That's true.
Assad is not the only puppet, so that's not a big deal. So they can find, and they can, in order to quell the uprising or to stabilize Syria, they will push for what is called democratically elected government
Mhm.
outside the Aleppo, and then they will run institutions, organized way of exploitations of Syria. So this Syria, the way we know it today, will change. Will no longer be Syria run by the dictator Bashar. If he leaves, then everything collapses. America does not like this type of stability. It needs self stability from within, and self stability from within, you need institutions to take over the government, to run the government, to run the state, political, economic, social, educational, health-wise, international politics, institutional, well-defined organs within the institution, and all of these orchestrated to play in the hands or in the within the arms of the U.S. That's natural. Now, the issue of Kurdistan. My opinion, I think, once this new Middle East geopolitics becomes clear, most likely I would believe there will be a new state created. Probably, most likely, on Iraq, it's already there, so that Iraq will be declared as a complete sovereign state, which could annex to it part of the Syrian part where the Kurds live, or maybe even from Iran, at least to solve this issue once
So
and for all.
you're
And
saying
the reason I'm saying this,
Afrin will be Afrin. Look what Syria looks like now. If you look at the Syrian map, the northern Syria, at least you have Idlib, and then you have from from Idlib to Al-Bab, and then you have Afrin, and then it goes down to Deir ez-Zor, to all the way down to Raqqa. So you're looking at, so what will be the new, I mean, the Kurdish area right now is Deir ez-Zor, Raqqa, and parts of Afrin.
I think it will be part of Raqqa, the one which is very close to the border of Iraq,
right?
Where it will be the number one declaring the state, the Kurdish autonomy, which is currently exists in Iraq, to be a sovereign state, absolutely independent state, and then in order to quell the rising of Kurds revolutions in Turkey and in Syria, probably some land will be annexed to that state. So most of the Kurds will become, that is your state. So this becomes a state of the Kurds, which
So
will
hold
be
on,
created.
two
And
different states of Kurds, one in Iraq, one in Syria?
no, one state. It will be one state, the one in Iraq, and that will expand into the Kurdish lands in both Turkey, Syria, and possibly Iran, where the Kurds are. And doesn't have to be to include all the lands where the Kurds live, just like in Palestine. Palestine today, Palestinians all over the world, many camps, many places. Tomorrow, they will give them a piece of land. They will say, "This is Palestine. Take it or leave it."
You're
After
saying
all,
somewhere,
under
either
the
Iraq or Syria, they'll give them land and say, here's a new Kurdish
yeah.
state.
But mostly it's Iraq. Mostly because Iraq is already a state. The Kurdish state
Right.
is
They have,
already a
yes,
semi-independent state.
right.
So that becomes, once it becomes a full-fledged state, absolutely independent from Iraq. So this becomes the Kurdish Republic or Kurdish state. Now, possibly they
the
can
Kurds that are in
change
Syria, in northern
the
Syria, they will be pushed into Iraq. Is this? I guess because it almost seems that
no, the
the
map will be
Turks are getting
expanded.
ready
No,
for.
the map.
Go ahead.
No, the map, the Iraqi Kurdish state map will be expanded somehow for some line. I cannot predict or say where that line would be, but in order to at least provide some type of incentive that this Syrian part of Kurdistan is already part of the big Kurdistan. So there'll be one Kurdistan. There cannot be two Kurdish countries. It will be one state. And that state, the nucleus of that state is Iraq. Now, because there is a turbulence in Syria and Syria is not stable, so there is nothing that can prevent America and its allies, both Turkey and Iran and Israel, to support the annexation or the expansion of the Kurdish state of Iraq to be in part of the Syrian land. Now, that part of Syrian land, where it will stop, it depends on how the Americans will play it, and this Middle East Council will see it. It can be few kilometers or few tens of kilometers inside Syria. We will see how, but that is the prediction, which I think now it brings me to another issue. The old way of thinking about the Middle East, the British Middle East was designed in a manner to create hot zones where conflicts can rise up anytime. So they came where the Kurdish people live, and they divided their piece of land, part in Iraq, part in Iran, part in Syria, part in Turkey. And so this becomes a permanent conflict which can rise any time and create a conflict, like in between Turkey and Syria. They took this big division called Iskandaron, which was part of the Syrian land or Sham, and they gave it to Turkey. So it becomes always a point of conflict. And of course, Palestine, we know how they did with that. And then at some point between Egypt and Sudan and Ethiopia all the way, they had this big land where Sudanese think of themselves as a separate entity within the Arabs, African Arabs, Sudanese, and Egyptians, just North Africans. So this was a potential conflict. The Americans, their way of stability is let stability to be from within. Let's not leave hot zones where these hot zones can create conflicts at any point of time, which will cost too much to stop or to resolve, like the one in Palestine today. That's how the American is. And now they have been thinking of a new Middle East for a long time. Step number one, they have to resolve the existing conflicts, like Palestine Israeli conflict from their perspective. They have to resolve it in one way or another. They have to create, or at least to remove the other impacts of
Mm,
old imperialism, British or French imperialism. Get rid of that, because that is one reason why the whole area is unstable. And that is part of the British politics, is to create instability in regions. Americans' policies is to create stability within the region. And those are totally two different concepts. Each one of them is absolutely costly in one way or another. But this is mentality, the mentality of the bosses. These are the bosses, these are the imperialists, these are the colonizers, the one who control the areas. So the British and the French mentality leave hotspots to be causes of instability, so that once they have problems, they run to us so we can help them resolve it. And they will never resolve it. Americans, on the contrary, they say, no, let's get rid of all of this and remove all the potentials of instability. Remember when when America took complete control of the Vietnam issue, eventually they fought a very large war, costly war, until once it was over, the two Vietnams were united in one Vietnam, and both of them, this united Vietnam today, is a pro-American country.
mm,
From the
mm,
time they really came together, they became some of the allies of the United States as one, and there is no internal conflict. The
mm,
North and South Korea, there is internal conflict, there is internal instability. But that is for a purpose. A purpose is to keep a check on China, not anymore. But once we resolve that issue with China, you will see that both Koreas, they will reunite and become one big state, and all of them will be play in the arms of the United States as the rest. So these are two different philosophies. Once you understand them, then you will see what's going on. Britain was able to create a Middle East absolutely unstable, with all types of hot zones inside to create instability at any point of time. America comes into this wall, and they need to sustain stability, meaning stability means that this region continues to play my game as long as it's stable. And that's a very smart way of looking at things, by the way, if they can manage it. I mean, Americans have proven to be very shrewd, even more shrewd than the British in this area. If they can achieve stability from within, that means they can achieve a lot. Look how they did it in and Pakistan, into Pakistan.
mm.
Now, no matter how the conflict becomes so serious, America sits cool, because it knows for sure no one will ever raise a weapon against his neighbor. Because once I do that, then I could be pushing for mutual destruction. Both have nuclear atomic bombs, so they can never go into full scale war. Okay, this area is self stable. Now I can utilize these two countries the way I want.
Sheikh, when it comes to nuclear war, I mean, was it only United States was able to use that against Japan because there was no one else had the ability? That's the only reason. I mean, now you're looking at multipolar nuclear powers, I guess, in that sense that so many countries do have nuclear weapons today that at one moment only US did, and it was able to utilize it. I mean, are you saying that Russia will never use it in Europe, or the Pakistanis can never use it in India, or vice versa?
This is natural human tendency.
Mm.
Natural
You
human
don't want to be
tendency.
destroyed
If
completely.
there are two people fighting, if both they know that they will shoot each other at the same time, they both will pull out. But if one of them believes that he can do it faster, then he will kill the other one.
Mm.
Today, with the nuclear weapons to be carried out from Russia to the United States, it takes a couple of hours to arrive through the fastest rockets. Within these 2 hours, equivalent number of missiles can be fired against Russia, and that's called mutual destruction. Mutual destruction, which means we kill one another. So let's find an agreement. Let's agree, and that's why we have SALT 1, SALT 2, all types of these nuclear zero option
Mm.
nuclear weapons between America and the Soviet Union. And now, since the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia has inherited all its nuclear power. So America had to deal with Russia on the same scale. That this is a country that has the capability of destroying us if we use our weapons against them. So we have to be
Let me
careful.
ask you this, Sheikh. Now,
So that's why,
if what we're looking at, you're
yeah.
saying, okay, well now, so basically a complete new institution is being built in the Middle East with complete new, I mean, yani, stabilizing effect to stabilize the Middle East. Uh, you can't see that happening in Africa, for instance. I mean, you have a whole situation going on from the so-called the Sahel area, where you have Burkina
Yeah.
Faso, Nigeria, all this area. Uh, that cannot be stabilized the way Middle East can be stabilized.
I think once the Middle East is stabilized and America finishes up with its task, let's call it, it's a major task in the Middle East. I think there are other regions that need to be addressed totally, including Africa, maybe the entire Africa as one continent, or maybe they will look at it, Middle Africa and the southern part of Africa that has two different regions, or to look at as one region. But America still has not engaged uh, thoroughly, or at least aggressively, in building a new African region. Or the African region continues until today be following the model of France and Britain, despite the fact that America was able to gain some footholds in many of these countries, but America has not spent yet any strategic mission in order to build a stable African or sub-African region. And part of that, I believe, is because the old imperialism continues to have big impact there. So they have to do some cleaning first, as they have done in the Middle East. In the Middle East, they cleaned Iraq. They kicked out the British dominance at the time of Saddam and the Ba'ath regime. Today, they removed the old Libyan regime, which was totally to its bones pro-Britain, and they are trying to stabilize Libya by itself. Similarly, in Tunis, so there are lots of cleaning up you have to do before you start building an internal stability within the region. So Africa is still too far away from this objective or this task.
Sheikh, last
But
question here.
who
The,
knows?
the issue of Egypt. I just wanted to get your opinion on this, as you know, Egypt uh, is sending weapons to Somalia, and somehow there's supposed to be some issue with dam with Ethiopia, and so there is a Eritrea and Somalia and Egypt have signed a pact against anything that could happen in with Ethiopia. What what do you think? This is, I mean, in other conversations, you were saying that this is a distraction. What do you think is happening in this area, Sheikh?
In my opinion, this is the most ridiculous move Egypt can take at this moment. The war is running very hot with lots of bloodshed and destruction on its border. And they claim that they want to help Somal in its stand against Ethiopia. This is ridiculous. The war is within your backyard, actually within your yard itself. And you say, no, no, I'm not worried about what's happening in Gaza. That's not my concern. My concern is Somalia. It cannot be more ridiculous than that. Cannot be more. I mean, this type of deception, it's a deception. It's a deceptive move that Egypt wants to deceive its own people. That look, we are busy with the issue of the dam that Ethiopia is building, and Somalia is being threatened with this. So let's help Somalia. That is the most absurd type of excuse they can give for not being able or not trying or even trying a little bit to interfere in the fire, to put off the fire that's happening within their yard. I'm not saying within their backyard, it's their yard. Why I am saying that? Because Gaza until 1967 was part of Egypt. In 1948, when the occupying state occupied Palestine, the armies, the Arab armies, the Egyptian stood at the borders of what we call today Gaza, and they stayed there. So this continued to be part of the dominance of Egypt. Now, the people of Gaza were not given the rights of the same rights as Egyptians, as people. That's even worse. These are under your protection. These are your people. These are Arabs, Muslims in the area, and you treat them as foreigners or externals. But the land of Gaza was yours. You cannot deny that. Egypt cannot deny that. Cannot say we have nothing to do with that. It's your own yard. It has been occupied in 1967 and you did nothing. And you negotiated, Sadat negotiated with the Israelis on Sinai and did not even bring the issue of Gaza at all. Zero. The only time Gaza was considered to be part of the global Palestine is after the Oslo agreement. It's whether you like it or not. Until then, it continued to be an occupied land by the Israelis. Occupied from whom? Occupied from Egypt. Occupied from Egypt. Not from Jordan, not from Palestine.
Can Israel actually do anything or actually take over Sinai? Is that a possibility? I mean, or is it you're looking at no?
Well,
it's going to be.
Look, about the possibility. Let's not question possibilities. In 1967, they took over the entire Sinai, and at the time, Egypt was completely armed by the Soviet Union. Supposedly, Soviet Union is opposed to the United States. So supposedly, Egypt was in a position to brag about we are the Soviet front end, whereas Israel is the front end of the United States. But that did not happen. Egypt ran away in 1967 like a rat, not like even a chicken. They ran away like a rat. Them and the Jordanians and the Syrians, all of them. 1967, they ran out like rats. They crawled into their holes and they ran away. And then they bigged the whole world. Sadat bigged the entire world in order to sign an agreement to get a Sinai, demilitarized Sinai. And later on, Jordan, when they signed an agreement with the Israelis, they gave them a land, part of the land, Lebanon, the West Bank, part of the Jordanian land, which was a farming area, and the Israelis, they got a contract to farm the same land, the same piece of land for 100 years.
This is Golan you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about Baqura, out of Jordan. It's a small piece
Uh-huh.
of land. And this, look, this is even more ridiculous. People, I don't like even to go into that because it's so sad, so crippling, so demeaning that Jordan actually enabled Israel to take over part of the Jordanian land, so that when they negotiate with Israel, they say, look, we are negotiating our land. It's Palestine negotiated back by Palestinians, but this is my land have been occupied. When the hell this has been occupied? Nobody knows. Nobody knows when part of Jordan was occupied by Israel. A small piece, a small strip of land in the southern part of Jordan, and a small village in the north. Eventually, in 1994, when they signed an agreement, they declared that, oh, we are getting back our land called Baqura and Wadi Araba. So this is shame. And that's what Egypt, today the question is about Egypt, not, oh, I'm sorry, bringing Jordan. And because I don't someone to mention, oh, this brother is talking only away from Jordan because at one point of time he's considered, whether you like it or not, a citizen of Jordan. But that's reality. That's reality. Egypt today sending weapons or soldiers or even political support for the dam issue, that in itself is a damn issue.
No, no,
because
the only reason I brought
because
that up. So here's the thing, Sheikh. The reason I'm bringing that up is because Somalia is, I mean, of course, the opposite side of Somalia is Yemen. So I guess is there anything that the Egyptians are thinking? Okay, to keep the Somalis. I mean, is this have anything to do with Yemen in reality, or is it Ethiopia for
no,
sure?
no, 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 brother, don't mix issues. This has to
Okay,
do only, look,
only
only
to
has to
distract.
do with the fact that Egypt is backing away, shying away from Gaza,
Mm,
does not want to be in a position to be questioned. What the heck are you doing? Why you are not helping Gaza? They want to come up at some point of time. So you have something on our backyard with Somal and the dam of the Nile, and the Nile comes through us. So we need to do some. Look, this is ridiculous. What Egypt is doing is a distraction, just to distract the eyes of the people so that they do not look and see what Egypt is crippled and not even willing to do anything to Gaza. Say, oh, after all, Egypt was busy with
Sheikh,
the issue of the dam.
let me this let's make this last question here because the answer time. But it's can Egypt, if Egypt was to attack Israel today, can Egypt actually fight a war? Is it possible? Is it does it have the means to actually fight a
My
war?
answer:
And
if Egypt, after all of these years, if Egypt cannot find a war in Gaza with this state that has been hit very hard by Hamas and by Jihad and by Hezbollah, and even not being able to crush these, if Egypt cannot do 10% of what Hamas had done or Hezbollah had done, let Egypt run away. Let's get it out of the picture. This
mm,
whole damn government, let it get out.
mm,
Now, if this government comes and says, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do that, get out. Get out. Egypt is strong by itself. Egypt has more than 120 million people. I think, I forgot
about
the
100
last
million
number
people,
I've seen.
yes. Yeah.
It has spent billions and billions and billions of dollars building the one of the largest armies in the area. It has made the army the largest industry in
Mm,
Egypt. The largest industrial corporation in Egypt is the army.
mm,
It's a very well organized. It's big. It has fought several wars in Sinai against its own people, saying against terrorists. Well, assume the Israelis are terrorists. Go and fight them. Look, you have fought your own so-called terrorists in Sinai. Let's agree for a second that they were fighting terrorists. But isn't this terrorist that's fighting in Gaza? The Israeli soldiers who are killing the people and shooting them and burning them. Isn't
mm,
this terrorist? Go and fight them.
mm.
Don't tell me that you are busy with Somal. Somal is an excuse to show that, look, we are busy doing something else. And look, if I was not on TV here on broadcast, I would bring examples that would I mean, shame them for the rest of their life about being distracted when someone sees his own mother or daughter being raped. He says, I am planting some tomatoes in my garden.
Mm.
I don't have
That's very.
time to protect them. That's how it looks. That's what Egypt government is doing. They see that the whole country in Gaza, whole nation that they were responsible for, they were part of Egypt, being raped, being killed, being suffocated, burned. And they say, we are busy planting some opium
Mm.
in the backyard of Egypt.
Sheikh, I mean, there's
We
a.
are doing some, I mean, this is
I,
ridiculous.
no, no, it's very well.
That brings
There's,
pain.
it's just that the things are. I mean, everything is moving in so many different directions. We trying to put them together. It becomes. I mean, it's a hell of a task. And I'm. So basically, what you're saying at the end of the day is that you have a new institution that is being built, which is going to be the new Middle East Security Council, basically, that will run the Middle East for the Americans, and that's to stabilize the region so that they can move on to do what they need to do. Maybe now with the Chinese situation and others, but so if the war is basically will continue to go on for at least. I mean, what are you predicting? 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or whatever it takes to stabilize?
The war will
And not only
continue
that, so Iran for you
until
is a nuclear state now.
what's that?
Iran, I mean, is a nuclear state now.
Iran is a nuclear state, whether they declare it or not. America knows
I mean, I
that.
heard Al
Israel
Jazeera
knows
first
that.
time ever calling Iran a nuclear state. This was a very
Yeah, it
interesting.
is. It is. I have said that for many years. Look, you never talk about the nuclear capabilities if you don't already have the nuclear bomb. Because if you brag about I have facilities for nuclear accelerations and you don't have what it takes to protect it, you are
Mm.
dead as born. Iran knows that. Iran has all types of scientists and knowledgeable people. They know that. They have political people. And this has been going on for more than 25. It doesn't take 25 years to build an atomic bomb. Once you have the accelerators, you have the uranium, you have the enrichment. You declare what's being enriched. You don't declare the other things. That is politics. Today, Iran is a state. It has been a nuclear state for some time. And America protected Iran from all types of European international zeal to stop the Iranian acquisition of the nuclear power. America
Mm.
is the one who did that. And now America is satisfied that Iran has the capability of stabilizing the Middle East with yet another nuclear power. America does not want to strip Israel out of its nuclear power because it's necessary. It knows that this Israel is not a real state; it's a fake state, and this fake state cannot stand on its own without having the most effective, powerful weapons in its hand. Otherwise, it will diminish. Otherwise, it will not stay. Otherwise, it will run away. The people will run away, will not stay. They need something in their hand, so they gave it to them. But they cannot allow them to be the regional superstate alone. That is anti-stabilization. Now, for that matter, America would not allow Egypt to take the nuclear power to stabilize Israel. That's too dangerous. Cannot allow Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Syria. There are many factors there. But Iran is the most suitable state for that for ideological, national, geographic reasons. And that you can take it on another podcast, another
Yes,
subject,
inshallah. All right,
another
Sheikh. We will
time.
end it here. But Jazakallah khair. There's always something new that and we end up with another topic, inshallah.
Sorry to take
But
that.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. You are. I know you are in Istanbul. Whatever reason you're there for, may Allah give you success, inshallah. And we'll bring you on next time. There's a lot, as I said, there's a lot of moving parts
Yeah.
that need to be
No, I
put
just
together.
I had something to mention, so I have to be fair for our own audience. Look, yes, I say that this is what America wants, It doesn't mean that it will happen the way it wants.
Right. I mean,
Doesn't
this
mean
is
there is a only potential disruption. The only potential disruption for this plan is the quick and fast and immediate rise of a new ideological state in the area,
mm,
which is the rise of an Islamic state of Khilafah. That is the only option for the Middle East to bypass this tragic type of plan that America has.
no, that's very
Now,
clear. I mean,
unfortunately,
it's look, I
well, it's clear for me and you, but unfortunately, it's not clear for many. I just want to make sure that this point is brought here on this podcast so people don't dream anyway that the American plan in the Middle East can stumble. Plans do not stumble on their own. You need someone to put your leg in front of that plan to stumble. And the only leg, the only foot that can do that are not groups that fight for their own rights and or their life or just to remain to survive. This is not survival issue. It's not survival issue. It's very strategic issue for the whole ummah. If the whole ummah does not understand that, we will be Allahu alam how long we have to wait before we can recap our position. May Allah Azza wa Jalla enable us to do whatever it takes before they do whatever they want.
inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Allahumma barik. May Allah protect you, preserve you, inshallah. See you next time, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan, brothers and
Alaikum
sisters,
salam.
and we'll continue on with these discussions. Middle East is, as I said, there's just too much happening. Every day is a new political situation on the ground. So let's make dua that look, as Dr. Abu Talha was saying, political situations are that they're never, things can happen out of the blue in many ways. We are talking about October 7th. Nobody ever at least predicted something like that could happen, that change, and it's changing the Middle East. So if there is anything is possible, if the Muslims decide that they want to make something happen, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام نحن جيل الهمام نحن فينا عمر لا لن يطول الظلام ديننا لن يضام نحن جيل الهمام نحن فينا عمر صبح بدا نور ظهر نجم وشمس وقمر ألقى على الدنيا الدرر هذا عمر هذا عمر كل البرايا تنتظر أيامه البيض الغرر كي تستفيد من العبر هذا عمر هذا عمر لا لن تدوم الجراح بل سيأتي الصباح نحن أهل الكفاح نحن فينا عمر لا لن تدوم الجراح بل سيأتي الصباح